Hello everybody, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today we're going to look at the beginning of a oil painting. This was requested by a Patreon member, so I wanted to kind of jump into it and explore it. So I'm going to do two videos. The first one is going to be on smooth Gessoboard. This is a Hobby Lobby brand. The second is going to be on linen panel oil primes. This is from Jerry's Artorama. So while I open this up and kind of talk about the Patreon requests, I'll just kind of talk about pigments. So first off, with this, the request was kind of a dark, moody, foggy, kind of the idea of something as opposed to a realistic representation of an object. So felt like she was describing tonalism to a T. So when I do that, I use a red and a green. I learned this combination from Stuart Davies, a great oil painter on YouTube. He paints in the tonalist fashion. Dennis Sheehan does that as well. So I'm putting out sap green and Italian Pompeii red. You can use quinacridone rose and phthalo green. You can use burnt umber and ultramarine for dark, maybe burnt sienna in ultramarine. You can play around with those complementary colors to mix an interesting brown or neutral or dark with those two. Then I use Galkid. Galkid is, I believe, the kind of alkyd I think it's pronounced, resin with Gamsol in it, which is kind of a quick drying agent. Other people, like Stuart Davies, will use linseed oil. Dennis Sheehan, I think, uses a quick dryer as well. But I'm not really well versed in those mediums, so I would research that. Unfortunately, that's the best advice I can give there. Excuse me. So I'm going to mix these two together to get brown. It's going to have red aspects. It's going to have green aspects. And this is what I'm going to use to put together my composition. I have a little bit of something in mind, but I'm going to play around and just develop it, show the textures, and what you can expect. Now, this is, like I said, a Gessoboard from Hobby Lobby. I think you can see the price in the beginning. It was maybe $6.99, $5.99 for the 8x10. You can get them on sale for half price. They'll do that every 2 or 3 weeks. And sometimes you can order online and get them in bulk and free shipping, if that's something that you're into. This smooth Gessoboard, because there is a textured one, the smooth Gessoboard, I find, really allows to wipe back to the white of it if you need to. Stuart Davies, so I'm going to refer to him a lot because this is where I kind of picked up the technique from. He will gesso his, I'm not sure if they're MDF boards, and then I think he'll sand it down fine, and that'll let him wipe back. His paintings are on a way larger scale. Stuart Davies is like a bona fide professional artist, and I think has, like the studio and the space for it. I don't have the room for the large scale. So what I've been playing around with lately, and I'll show the textures while I blab. I'm gonna grab a paper towel while I blab. I've been playing around with kind of almost an oriental approach to the underpainting, to the development of the scene. These paintings, I think, could be passable as finished paintings if you wind up taking them a little bit further, which I will in a future video. I'll wind up glazing over them and tinting them in different fashions. But it really does bear resemblance to the Oriental landscape ink paintings. So I'm just throwing my tones in, and then I'm using the paper towel to kind of soften it out. You can come into this and leave this texture in the sky if you want. So you could use a variety and see what you prefer. So experiment with both of those. So let me take a moment to kind of soften this out. I'm going to bring it down to the horizon here. And this one, this brush is Pro Stroke Premium White Bristle Creative Mark. So this is from Jerry's Artorama. Excuse me, and I think they have it up for like $2 on their website. It's the number 4. Jerry's has this thing, buy it, try it, where it's either like $1.75 or $2.50 for an item. And so far the things that I've tried out were really worth it. Okay, so we have tones in the sky. I'm not worried too much about the texture in them. I'm kind of just softening things out. And now I've been playing around with building up the background in kind of a foggy Chinese style. And what I mean by that is putting in the idea of trees. And right now they're pretty harsh. And I'm going to soften them up. And I'm going to go back and forth and build this up. But I'm also going to leave a gap between this set of trees and the trees behind it. So we're softening that up. Let's go for the ones back here. So I'm using this lighter area to inspire fog. And I can give more life to some of these edges for interest, as if it's coming through the fog. And this would work either way if I was creating trees or mountains. It's kind of to be determined what they'll be, most likely trees. I like painting mountains, but living down in Louisiana, we don't have mountains. And if somebody wants something, usually it's more, you know, a local feel to it. Now that I kind of described a lot of what's going on here, I can throw in that disclaimer of you are more than welcome to follow along with any video that I do, and you can always sign your name to it. And if you ever want to sell it, you have my express permission to sell anything that you do when you follow along, because I want you guys to succeed. Art supplies are expensive, and it'll help you on your journey. Okay. Now, it's kind of getting very symmetrical right here, so I'll put another one in. I think we'll lean towards a nighttime scene. My Patreon member that had requested this had talked about the lavenders and colors that are in nocturnes, which were terminology for the nighttime scenes that were utilized by Henry Whistler, a tonalist painter. You can see how easy I can bring out the moon right there by just wiping back on this board. Ampersand brand makes a beautiful gesso board as well. The cheapest place for ampersand, where was that? I did find somebody that was surprisingly cheap in comparison to everybody else. I think it might have been Hobby Lobby. And I think it surprised me because usually Blick or Jerry's Artorama is where to go to if I order something online. I'm using this bristle brush now. It was a little detrimental in putting these trees in because it had that textured effect. If I had a softer brush, which is in the other room, because I had washed them, I'll grab it for the next video and I'll demonstrate with the next video with a different brush. With the bristle, you can really push it and get texture from it. I said that I was going to refer to Stuart Davies quite a bit, and I won't disappoint. He is a modern painting idol of mine. He goes into using very large textured brushes, almost brushes you'd find in the hardware store. I believe he even talks about how to kind of de-hair them so you don't lose too many hairs in the painting during the process. But with these bristle brushes, you can push back to the white of this paper board, especially the smooth board. So just texturizing, creating this area here. I think I will throw a vertical tree in a moment. And stuff that we don't like within this, we'll probably adjust and change in the next session, which will be in a few days, mainly because we have to wait for this to dry. Or at least I prefer to wait till it dries. Let's see, what else can be discussed? This exact board. Okay, this board is about 3/4 inch deep. It's nice because you could hang them. If you paint the sides, it could be hung by itself. I think the framing that they do to it makes it relatively sturdy. There should be no warping that takes place. However, if you're going to paint a lot, this starts taking up a lot of room. And that's something that I've been dealing with. I think I mentioned earlier, somebody like Stuart Davies has a studio. I, unfortunately, do not. We rent a 2-bedroom house And it can really take up space in the house, you know, the paintings. So I prefer the panel, which are, I think, 1/8 deep. So we have our fog in the background, which we just achieved by leaving that negative space between. I'm going to put the idea of trees in here. They're on the greener side. So I'll probably come back in, like I said, in a few days with and tint them some different colors. A tree here on this side. Get a little bit of this galgid. So I'll be ending the video in probably 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll immediately jump into the next one to show the different material. And I'll grab a different brush for that. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope that this is helpful. With oils, there's a lot of different approaches, a lot of different mediums that you can use. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that say that I'm doing things completely wrong. They might use liquid, they might not use these paints, they might not use this surface. So let me know what you use down below. Unfortunately, within painting, oil painting is, you know, one of the pinnacles. It's considered one of the pinnacles, the peaks of the mediums. And a lot of people, famous painters that painted, used it, you know, to make their living. So they would have their apprentices, but you never find out what they shared with the apprentices. So there we are, where we're sitting at a point where we have these great artists throughout history that we have to learn how they did stuff, you know, through science, through X-rays, through I guess it'd be chromatography or whatever, all the different sciences. So if you have knowledge, you know, share it in the comments, or share at least what artists you find or what teachers you find are very helpful. And then also, just as a kind of little asterisk next to that, is that there may not be people out there that want to give up their secrets, and or they might, you know, give them up for a cost. And who am I, or who are we to judge them for wanting to make a living off of, you know, what they discovered and what they did? So just keep that in mind. There might be good artists out there that are crotchety, that don't want to share, which is okay. One last little texture. We'll take the paper towel. Let's also remember, I myself, I'll pull out a tree up here, just completely from nothing. There we go. And in a future video, play around with that. I myself, you know, I'm a school teacher, so first of all, I have a you know, teacher's income. So I don't have to rely solely on art, you know, to get by. so I can, you know, make that statement that, you know, I'm more free at sharing information. So, I don't know, just a whole bunch of blabbing. I apologize that it almost became, well, these painting videos can become philosophical. We're going to leave those whites there so that whenever we glaze in a future video, it really pops out at that point. And we'll start getting some interesting textures from this tree. One thing that I always try to do is paint to the edges. However, if you were to frame this, it would sit probably to there. So, you know, you want to keep that in mind. Well, I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to edit this video and upload it, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great day.